We have in the studio two gentlemen from Benue State to look at the developing story in the state. Clem Beetseh, a fellow Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, who is also a native of one of the affected communities, as well as Yelwata. Also, Daniel Onjeh, a public affairs analyst, well versed in the security situation in Benue State. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Glad to have you on Newsnight.
Thank you so much.
All right, let me start with you, Clem. Yeah, this incident in Yelwata was well broadcast. I mean, the magnitude of the attack was too much. But I gather that this incident had occurred in an area you called, I can't quite remember now, just linear along Yelwata. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, good evening, and good evening, viewers. It's really sad. We're all, in a state of anguish and despair. The Yelwata incident was just a follow-up to a series of other attacks that happened a couple of days earlier. Yelwata happened about this time last week. Now, before that incident, there was Agan. Agan was a couple of days earlier, and it was the same strategy, the same, method of attack. The only difference is that the Yelwata hit, was very huge. The loss and the damage, was massive. But then these attacks were already on. It wasn't that Yelwata just, took us by surprise. Agan had already, been sacked a couple of days earlier. You had women and children, loitering the streets, just, destitute, and then, of course, we had Yelwata on Saturday. But you see, I think that is already in the public glare. Most Nigerians already know that this time last week, 200 of their countrymen were slaughtered in their sleep. I think that is no longer news. Most Nigerians already know that as we speak, over 500,000 of their countrymen have been made destitute and are loitering the streets of Makurdi in search of aid, in search of relief. What Nigerians want to know, what the president himself asked, was how come we've not had even a single arrest? How come these assailants have not been apprehended? That is what is of concern to us. Because it's all stale. The damage, the mayhem, the assault, it's already becoming stale. It's already becoming, old news. What we want to know is how come the relevant agencies have not apprehended anyone, and, yet we continue to have this loss of lives.
So, Daniel, you want to come in there? His last statement.
Well, I think that was a very, very, very critical observation by Mr. President. And the question, I believe, is to, it was a wake-up call to the security agencies. Indeed, they ought to have been arrested. But I have a little problem with that. It shouldn't be arrest at all costs. It should be an effective arrest, meaning that it has to be targeted at the real culprits, not just for the sake of it, as seen in time past in this country, where crimes are committed and when the leadership charges the security agencies for arrest, and before you know it, from nowhere, it is reported or said, oh, arrests have been made. I believe that is just to, pacify the citizens who are, displeased or dissatisfied with the polity, particularly with the issue of the insecurity. Well, given that, I believe that there's more to do beyond the marching order that the president had given to the security agencies. This directive also must be followed or matched with actions. And they need to be strategic about it. We don't have to wait and be reactionary towards this issue. We need to be very proactive. What do I mean by that? From the intelligence that have been gathered, I believe they have an idea where the hideouts of these criminal elements are, these terrorists, these bandits. They know where they are. So take the fight to their home. That is the best way to address the issue of the insecurity. If you're given a marching order, you don't just wait until another strike is done before you go. Go after these criminal elements, particularly with Benue State in focus. We know the Benue State borders other states like the Taraba State, the Cross River State, the Ebonyi State, the Enugu State, and the Nasarawa State. There's need for a collaborative effort. I'm talking about interstate collaboration with the governors of these bordering states, particularly with the local governments that border the state. If the security visit this local government and comb the areas, I'm sure they're able to fish out these criminal elements. And also, they need to intensify, the orientation of citizens so that they can give useful information that can lead to arrest. Some of these criminals are indeed living with the people the communities. And I can tell you right now, as it is, there may still be these criminals living within the people in the communities in Benue State.
He talked about being proactive, but the police said they have arrested one person. Clem.
Now, that's for me, cosmetic, and it is face-saving. If you've arrested one person, I challenge the IGP of police to provide the mug pictures and the charge sheet of that arrest. Because 200 people were slaughtered, all right? If you've arrested one person, then in this country, people are paraded, when they steal phones, when they steal smartphones. So you have somebody that is accused of slaughtering 200 people. Nigerians, and particularly the families of these people, deserve to know who that fellow is. Let's have a mugshot. Let's know what the charge sheet is saying, and what those people are, what offense they've actually committed. It's that important.
But the law says police can parade, mind you, that are suspected, and one person can kill 200 people.
Exactly, that's the point.
But the law says you can't parade people.
Every day on television, we see them parade people for stealing smartphones. So why have a selective operating procedure? Here you have somebody that is accused of killing 200 people. Your guess is as good as mine. It's not possible for one person to slaughter 200 people in their sleep. So for me, it's face-saving, it's cosmetic, it's all in a grand effort to deflate the seriousness that this situation deserves. So if the IGP of police indeed has begun to make arrests following the president's order, then we demand to see mugshots of the arrest he has made. Let us see the charge sheets. Like he said, this is a very serious issue. It's not just a casual report, or no, it's something very serious. 200 Nigerians were slaughtered in their sleep. These people have citizens, they have rights as Nigerians. What crime did they commit? Is it because they were peasant farmers? These people are just trying to survive. But then, like I said, there's a grander conspiracy. In all of this.
What's the grand conspiracy?
What is happening in Benue? There's a lot of falsehood that is going around, and like I said, the whole idea is to deflate the seriousness of the matter. What is happening in Benue is not a communal conflict. It is it's a conspiracy of grand proportions. You have international actors that have been brought into the country to seize territory and transmit same to commercial interests. That is what we are facing here. And the truth of the matter is that, look, what is happening in Benue is just proof of concept. Benue is just a buffer. If nothing is done about this, if Benue falls, Nigeria will fall. It's only a matter of time. If these people overrun Benue, Enugu is next. I can assure you, we will have this conversation in another 5 years, and it will be a very sad story. So the earlier we understood the gravity of this situation and did the needful, I'm in agreement with him that what we need to do at this point is to deploy deadly force to smoke these people from out of their holes. That is how you respond to criminality. You don't analyze criminality. You respond. There should be consequence for bad behavior.
Daniel, Todd Thief, in addressing the president, said this is not a question of communal headers crisis. I mean, there's been talk about land grabbing. Sahel River is driving up. These people are looking for land to farm, and Benue land is quite arable, as it were. But Todd TV is saying this is a criminal act. It goes beyond land grabbing. It goes beyond communal clashes. What's your sense of what the Todd Thief said?
Well, I completely agree with the Todd Thief, Professor James, I'd say. That is the true position that he has given, and I believe the position of all the traditional rulers in Benue State, as is the chairman of the Benue State Traditional Council, is what we all know in Benue and live with. It is not a communal or ethnic clashes, because the question is, where are the cows in Benue State? Where do you see them? Who goes to farm any longer when farmers have been attacked severally, they've instilled fear in people, and they have been displaced from their farms? Very few farmers go to the farm in Benue State. These criminal elements that come, they don't come with any cattle. No sensible human being will walk out for grazing, and then with the intention of grazing at the same time and also fighting. What happens to your cattle? What happens to your asset? What happens to your wealth? So those who come to attack are not herdsmen. I have said that times without number, that I hate to profile or stereotype any ethnic group in Nigeria, because we must live with the fact and reality that we have indigenous Fulani people. They have stayed as long as other people have stayed in this country. If we begin to call them herdsmen, we are dignifying them, because herdsmanship is a trait, is a known trait. And these people hide under the guise of that, and they enjoy it. The more we continue to stereotype, to say Fulani herdsmen, and not naming them for what they are. They are terrorists. They are bandits. They are kidnappers. If you name them by the name, then the law will take its due course. But if you say herdsmen, the moment you take any action against them, they get cover from either their association of cattle rearers, and the more we continue to stereotype or profile them, we will be expanding the scope of their nefarious activities.
Or not particularly addressing the issue. Let me come to you, Clem. On this, I mean, this is part of it, part of the insecurity, on the suicide bombing, the vice president condemns the attack. He vows justice and says we won't let extremists undermine peace in the Northeast. But then the question arises, we talked about being proactive. What are the governors? Okay, this is particular with Benue, Plateau. What's the governor doing? Not just the federal government. Shouldn't the governor be seen to be doing something? And then your talk about what do you really mean about if this is not tackled, Enugu is next. I mean, you want to expatiate on that?
Right. Now, the governors can only work within the limit of their authority and their resources. I can tell you this much, that the Benue State governor has done a lot that everyone can see, over the period that he has been governor. It's very obvious. I think in the course of the year, he gave out over 100 Hilux vehicles to security agencies. I'm aware that in recent times he has given out hundreds of motorbikes to community vigilante groups and so on. Now, that is the most that a state governor can do in Nigeria. The state governor in Benue cannot command a division of the Nigerian police. He doesn't have the authority to give instructions to a captain of a squad. The best he can do is to provide logistic support. And in Benue, the governor, like I said, has done the best he can do within the limit of his resources and his authority. Now, to the issue of Enugu is next, what I'm trying to establish is that we're not dealing with, a little conflict between two communities. Okay, let's use Yelewata as an example. 200 people were slaughtered about this time last week, all right? If you say it is a community, conflict, which community attacked Yelewata? Which community attacked Agan? So this is not a community conflict. Like I said, it's a well-organized, it's a well-structured, well-funded, and phased design and plan to redesign the geography of this country. And it is happening. It's happening in phases, one step at a time. They're using the instrumentality of force, of fear, and falsehood, trying to sell narratives, that reduce the gravity of the situation. So my point is, look, if Benue falls, Nigeria will fall. It's only a matter of time. Once these people cross Benue, the next the border state with Benue is Enugu. Enugu, comes next. And then we cannot really say, where things go from there.
And that's why he was talking about collaboration among those governors that bother themselves. Those states that bother
It's a national issue. It's a national issue.
Just briefly, before we end this discussion, the CDS is talking about building, fencing all our borders. Because there's talk that these guys, just like he's mentioned, are people who move from outside of the country and come in, like he was talking about collaborating with people in selling false narratives. What do you make about the CDS suggestion that our borders need to be fenced?
Honestly, I must commend the CDS, Christopher Musa, for his knowledge on the security situation in the country. I think Mr. President should take him more serious than he is right now, because I've followed him keenly with a very keen interest, because everything I've thought or known about the security situation and its multifaceted dimension, the CDS appear to be talking and touching on them. We need to man our border. We need to secure our borders, because these criminal elements and terrorists, they replicate themselves in large numbers in terms of recruitment. The more you continue to disseminate them, neutralize them, the more they flood our country. Our borders are porous. So the movement of arms and even these bandits and terrorists is with ease into our country. So we will be involved in an endless war if we don't secure our border. But if we secure our borders, then we can descend on them, smoke them, like you said, right from their hideouts in the country. And then we can rest assured that the
we leave these things and stop what is going on. All right, exactly. Clem, your last word.
Yeah, let me add to what he just said. Now, the issue of building, fences along our borders, that for me is medium and long term. There are immediate responses that need to happen now. We need to deploy deadly force to get these guys out.
All right, we'll just stop it there. Yeah. Clem Beetseh, fellow Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyor, and who is a native of the area, and Daniel Onjeh, public analyst, affairs analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the program.
Thank you so much.